To come to your office.
All right, I won't.
I broke out last night, Mr. Judd. I come 180 miles to get to you.
And you got to me. Now what?
They say I killed some man. They say I killed him in a stick-up.
They must have done more than just say it.
Mr. Judd, I served 6 years so far on a life sentence. I'm in for life for something I didn't do. And all the time I'm thinking if I had you for a lawyer, you'd have proved it.
You did have a lawyer, though.
But he couldn't cut it. Why should I rot in a hole just because I couldn't buy you? You heard that before.
Yes, I have,
And what? You don't give a damn. I didn't pull that job. I didn't kill that man. And if nobody gonna give a damn, then I ain't going back except in a box. Let me tell you, I ain't gonna be the only one in a box. You understand me, Mr. Judd?
You're a fugitive. I couldn't begin to do anything for you unless you let me surrender you to the authorities.
If I let you, then what?
Then I'll look into the matter.
You're saying I should go back and you'll help me?
I'll do what I can. There's a telephone in my car. It might work here inside this garage. Shall I try it?
We got a deal. Make a deal with a man like me. You don't even want to know my name?
Of course I do.
My name is Jesse. Jesse Aarons.
Okay, Mr. Aarons. We've got a deal.
Judd, for the defense. Judd for the Defense is brought to you by...
This man is surrendering voluntarily.
You move away from him, you put your hands on the car, and you spread your feet.
No, not like this.
Jesse, it's standard. It's what they always do.
They always do to me. Not this time. I got a lawyer.
You his lawyer, Mr. Judd?
I'm not his lawyer of record, but I'll look into his case.
You just turn around and you put your hands on top of the car.
You gonna handle my case?
I said I'd look into it.
That means you're gonna take...
Jesse, it means nothing of the sort.
You liar! Order!
Better call an ambulance.
Now, you lay across that hood, and you don't move.
Liar. Liar.
You're like all the rest.
Copy of the case record. Very ordinary reading. Defendant is charged with the fatal shooting of George L. Hussman, the owner of the liquor store. Identified by widow of Hussman, and another witness noted the number and the make of the getaway car, which was traced to Aaron's, and the murder weapon was found concealed behind the baseboard of the closet of his house.
No confession?
No admissions made to the police.
What was his defense?
Well, no defense was actually presented. Aaron's entered a plea of not guilty to murder one, and then after the opening remarks of the prosecution, there was a conference and a deal, and then this man who told you he was wrongfully convicted changed his plea to guilty of murder too.
Who represented Aaron's?
Well, a court-appointed lawyer, one Ira Creighton.
Creighton.
Does that ring a bell?
Very faintly. Let's get in touch with him.
I tried, but Mr. Creighton is not practicing law anymore. No, and what he is doing now, as far as I could learn, he's a room clerk at one of those downtown hotels.
Ben, could you gather what Aaron's defense would have been if it had been presented?
Alibi.
How strong?
Terrific. He was playing cards with a friend named Vernon Randolph.
You don't feel it would have held up?
No, I don't. You see, he met Vernon Randolph when they shared a cell together during one of Aaron's prior convictions. That one was for felonious assault. And before that, he was convicted of auto theft. Before that, he accumulated an arrest record going all the way back to juvenile court, which sent him to reformatory for 3 years. Now, Clint, is this the man that you feel could not have struck a police officer, if not for you?
Never thought you'd come up here.
I told you I'd look into your case.
Yeah, well, turns out I don't know what you mean when you say that.
For the time being, it means you should control your temper.
What do you want? Respect?
The policeman hasn't regained consciousness yet. He's still critical. You know what that means?
Jesse, did you kill that storekeeper?
No.
His widow testified she saw you.
Woman's lying.
A witness saw you drive away.
He's lying.
He gave a description of your car and the license number.
You trying to trip me up?
Did you kill the storekeeper?
No.
He was shot by a gun found in a closet in your house. Was that your gun? Jesse, you're a fool if you lie to me.
Yeah, you too smart.
Was it your gun?
Might have been. Don't mean I used it on nobody.
You suggesting that somebody knew the hiding place and borrowed your gun?
It could have happened that way.
Well, who knew where the gun was kept? Did anyone know, Jesse?
Just me. And my wife.
Where is she now?
We divorced. She got married again. I don't know where she's at.
You know her married name so we can try to find her?
No.
Jesse, what about your car that day?
I left it in the alley side the house while I went somewhere.
Where?
Visit a friend.
Vernon Randolph?
That's right.
He lived 3 miles away. How did you get to him?
You really been looking into this.
How, Jesse?
I walked.
Oh, you like walking?
I like riding. Car was near out of gas and I didn't have no money, so I walked. Now, you gonna turn that around to mean I killed that man there? Judd, I swear and hope to die. I didn't do it.
Then why did you change your plea to guilty?
Second-degree murder.
But if you were innocent...
There was nobody alive who knew what I was. Vernon. Who's gonna believe what he said? A black ex-con like him. And me, too. Now you know. Now, Mr. Judge, you know I'd take the stand and I'd tell the truth and nobody's gonna believe me. But when that court lawyer laid it on me, I give in.
Laid on what?
Telling me I had no defense. I was going to the chair. Then he said he could get them to accept second-degree murder. go easy on me. So I tell him all right. It wasn't until later when I looked out from behind them bars I woke up. It come to me I didn't understand what he meant. He meant that it would go easy for him. They paid that court lawyer, didn't they?
Well, the state paid him a fee, yes.
So he made his money the easy way, just pleading me guilty. Judd, that man tricked me, just like you did.
Now, Clint, I don't understand you. Police officer lies in a coma, and you want to reopen the case of the man who did it to him.
It's a different case now, Harry. Now, suppose Jesse Aarons did not kill the shopkeeper husband. Suppose he spent 6 years in prison.
Oh, come on, Clint. We're talking about an habitual offender. Now, even accepting your supposition that Aarons is innocent in the husband case, and I do not accept it, still, Aarons is guilty of who knows how many other crimes for which he has never been apprehended.
All right, then why did you accept a change of plea to murder in the second?
To save the state the expense of preventing a full prosecution case. Not to mention the time involved. Do you have any idea of what my workload is like?
Harry, now that could apply to almost every case of murder one. You must have had some other reason.
Are you suggesting that I had doubts about Aaron's guilt?
Right.
Wrong. I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about his lawyer. You know that poor schnook that, what was his name?
Ira Creighton.
Creighton, yeah, he was in trouble. I wanted to throw him some satisfaction. So I fed him a deal for second degree, 20 years to life. Parole? Aarons would never make parole. So I figured, why not throw the poor lawyer a bone?
Oh, in other words, Jesse Aarons had poor legal representation.
Well, how much better did he deserve?
Well, first today and last. One drink's my limit these days, Mr. Judd.
I'll accept that stipulation, Counselor.
Mr. Creighton, do you feel you did the most you could for Jesse?
Well, I kept that boy out of the chair.
That doesn't answer the question.
Well, just what is the question? Whether I defended him as well as you would have?
No. As well as you would have. At the top of your career. Before you developed certain problems.
What do you know about my problems?
One was your wife, who had just left you. Another was this stuff.
Look, Judd, I thought you were buying, but it looks to me as if I'm expected to pay in some other kind of coin now. Exactly what is it you want?
I'm appearing in Superior Court tomorrow morning to move that the conviction of Jesse Aarons be set aside and the case be retried.
On what grounds?
On the grounds that he didn't have adequate advice from counsel when he agreed to change his plea. Mr. Creighton, I'm going to have a tough row to hoe unless you appear with me and join in the motion.
Well, you don't know what you're asking. All right, maybe I was at the bottom of the bottle, but I'm floating up. One drink a day, that's not so bad, is it? I've been boning up on the law. I'm still a member of the bar. I've applied for a position with a firm of negligence lawyers, and I think I'll get that on the 1st of the month. But if I stand up in court tomorrow and declare myself derelict, they'll never hire me.
Look, Creighton, there are certain points you can help me to make. Now, you had great difficulty communicating with the client. I'm sure that's true. You were pressed for time and money to go after witnesses. That shouldn't be considered dereliction.
Well, why should I take the chance? Why should I put what's left of my life on the line for a...
For a what?
Well, a man who hasn't got a prayer of making anything out of his. Now, why should I do that, Judd? Are you so sure he's innocent?
No, not sure. Far from it. But I am sure that he didn't have a proper trial, and I want him to get one, that's all.
What's he to you? Do you even know Jesse Aarons?
I know how he feels. He feels he was betrayed. By you. And by me. I, for one, don't want to live with that. Do you?
session. We have before us a motion by Mr. Judd to set aside the conviction of one Jesse Ahrens. Will the counsel approach the bench?
Your Honor, we will show that Jesse Ahrens was deprived of his right of counsel by reason of circumstances which made it impossible for him to have adequate legal advice at the time he changed his plea. We contend that Jesse Ahrens, whether innocent or guilty, did not receive the fair trial to which every man is entitled. And our motion is simply that he be granted that fair trial now.
May it please the court, the state opposes this motion. Jesse Ahrens very recently broke out of state prison and assaulted a police officer who now lies between life and death. Now, if this police officer should die...
That is precisely the point, Your Honor. Jesse Ahrens might be charged with murder in the first degree.
He most certainly would be charged.
In which case, it would be very difficult to guarantee him an impartial trial on the other charge.
Is my learned colleague saying that a man who commits 2 murders is entitled to more consideration than a man who commits only 1?
Why don't you laugh, too?
My point is, Your Honor, that if Jesse Ahrens is going to be granted a new trial, it should be granted now before any complications set in.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with you, Mr. Judd. You may go on with your argument.
May it please the court, and without intending any criticism of his court-appointed lawyer, I submit that it's important to ask why Jesse Ahrens, a man who had stoutly maintained that he was innocent, suddenly changed his plea to guilty.
I'll tell you why. Because his lawyer needed a drink.
Great. I never wanted you to go as far as this.
I want to.
Your Honor, this is Ira Creighton of counsel, who was the attorney of record. You would like to approach the bench.
You may do so, Mr. Creighton.
You're not doing this to me, you hear? You're not turning me over to him so he can sell me out this time.
Jesse,
too.
sit down.
You're not doing this for me. You're doing this for him. All right.
It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Your Honor. A time when anyone feels beat. But if you wake up in the morning feeling beat, by 3 o'clock, you're desperate. I told my client that we had had an offer of a deal from the prosecution for murder 2. He told me no, he was innocent. But my mind was not on his problem at that moment. It was on that bar across the street. So I walked over to Mr. Reed. Perhaps he remembers the conversation. And I said, let me give you my answer first thing in the morning. Will you agree to a continuance? He said, no. You won't get the same deal tomorrow. Take it or leave it the way it is right now. I don't blame Mr. Reed for playing his hand as hard as he could. He couldn't see how hard my hand was shaking. So I went back to my client, and I told him, we have no defense, Jesse. If you don't take the deal, it means the chair. And he said to me, Mr. Creighton, I don't have anyone to trust but you. So I said, Jesse, I'm telling you the whole truth, so help me God. But I was only telling him half the truth. The other half was in that bar across the street. So we made the deal. I got my drink. And that's why Jesse Ahrens changed his plea.
Mr. Judd, Mr. Reed. In view of this remarkable statement, and in view of the points presented in the brief by Mr. Judd and Mr. Caldwell, I will order a new trial in the case of Jesse Ahrens, to be placed on the schedule at the earliest possible moment. Mr. Creighton, I will see that a record of this hearing is made available to the Bar Association. This hearing is adjourned.
Mr. Creighton, I want you to... Could have said something to him.
Like what?
Like you know that he just took his last chance of getting back into law and threw it out the window. Like at least you understood that he did it for you.
He owed it to me.
Did he? Well, what did you ever do for him?
Me?
Yeah, you. What in your entire life did you ever do for anybody?
You better get off my back. Don't tell me that drunk did it for me. He laid it on for himself.
Well, Jesse, we're over the first hurdle. Now we'll get busy preparing your case. Mr. Caldwell has a few questions to ask you, and I'll see you in a few days. Ben, see you at the office.
He too busy to see me?
Oh, he has a waiting room full of clients.
Figures. I knew he wouldn't handle my case, so he's turning me over to you.
Now, look, Jesse, the expense of defending you has to be met somehow, and it's not going to be met by you. So do yourself a favor and don't play this with a chip on your shoulder.
You want to know who put that chip on my shoulder?
No, but just don't put it on mine. Now, I'm going to ask you exactly 4 questions. 1, at the time that shopkeeper was killed, did you have your revolver with you? Answer, no. As far as Jesse knows, the gun was in his closet. 2, at this time, where was your car? Answer, parked in the alley. The keys were left in the house. Exactly where, he doesn't remember. 3, at this time, were you actually with Vernon Randolph? Answer, yes. 4, were you and Vernon Randolph in his house? Answer, yes, we were in Vernon's house playing cards.
All right. I got Harry Reid to send me the polygraph examination record of Vernon Randolph. Made right after the police arrested Jesse. Now, let's check Vernon against Jesse.
Yeah, but noting that Jesse refused to take a lie detector test.
Which he had every legal right to do. Yeah.
Question to Vernon. Were you or Jesse Aarons in any way involved in the shooting of husband? Answer, no. Finding truthful. Question. Were you and Jesse Aarons in your home playing cards at that time? Answer, yes. Finding not truthful.
Well, now I don't know. But we've still got to get a hold of that Vernon Randolph.
I thought you were attending to that.
I put the most expensive private investigator on it. What else could I do? Eloise, have we ever heard from Ernie Freeman?
Yes, Mr. Caldwell. He called while you and Mr. Judd were out.
Well, that's great. Why didn't you say something?
I did, Mr. Caldwell. I left the message on Mr. Judd's desk.
Then why don't you ever look at the messages on your desk?
Vernon Randolph died 2 years ago.
Judd for the defense will continue following station identification.
I was in the rear of the store, and I heard my husband talking to someone. Then I heard the register open, but I didn't hear it close, so I went up front.
So you thought that there was a holdup in progress?
No, I just thought I could help out.
Mrs. Husband, what do you see there?
Well, I saw a holdup. A man was pointing a gun at my husband.
Did you hear him say anything?
No.
Clint, who are you looking for?
He turned and
Creighton,
looked at
I
me.
sent him a wire.
Then he
Creighton,
turned back to
why?
my husband. Then he
What do we
shot
need
the
Creighton
gun.
for now?
We
Then he
owe
ran
it
out
to
of the
him.
store.
So the man who shot your husband turned to look at you first.
Straight at me.
How far away was he from you?
Only a few feet.
Mrs. Husband, is that man in this courtroom now?
Yes, he is.
Can you point him out to me?
Right there.
Let the record show the witness identified the defendant. You may cross-examine.
Mr. Husband, would you say that you had a very good look at the man who shot your husband?
A very good look. He was
But didn't he turn away quickly?
not quick enough.
Your Honor, what kind of theatrics are going on here?
Mr. Judd, is there any particular point to this procedure?
Yes, sir. I simply want to ask the witness a few questions about the appearance of the defendant.
You may proceed.
Mrs. Husband, how tall was the man who shot your husband?
He was big.
About my height?
No, bigger.
Was he heavy? Thin?
Heavy.
What was his complexion?
He was Negro.
Yes, but,
Oh, you mean was he mulatto or something like that?
not exactly.
He was black.
What was the color of his eyes?
His eyes. But they were black, of course.
Why did you say, of course?
What else could they be?
Was his face broad or narrow? And what about his nose? And were his ears protuberant or flat?
I don't remember about those things.
Your Honor, the witness has already identified the defendant.
She has pointed to him, Your Honor, but can she describe him?
Would you approach the bench?
Yes.
Are you going to try to entrap the witness into some betrayal of prejudice?
No, sir.
Well, I'm relieved to hear that. You may proceed.
Miss Houseman, did you notice... Jesse, you can look up now. Did you notice any scars or other marks?
No, I didn't.
Were you refreshing your memory when you looked at the defendant?
I was making sure.
Making sure that you were describing the defendant? Mrs. Husband, I know you want to make sure that the man who shot your husband is punished. But don't you want to make equally sure that only the right man is punished?
Of course I do.
So do I, Mrs. Husband. Thank you. That's all.
May it please the court, State calls Detective Sergeant Samuel Wiley.
After we apprehended the suspect, we searched the premises, and hidden behind a baseboard in a closet, we found that weapon.
Now, did the suspect admit ownership of this gun?
Yes, he did.
Thank you, Sergeant. I will now ask you whether you heard the testimony of a previous witness concerning a particular automobile he saw leaving the scene of the crime.
I heard that.
1954 two-door red coupe license number RN 4201.
Yes, sir.
Now, Sergeant, do you have any relevant information about this particular automobile?
We found that car in an alley adjacent to the premises where the suspect resided.
Now, did the suspect admit ownership of this vehicle?
Yes, he did.
Your Honor, we offer as evidence a certificate of registration.
But he hasn't been disbarred.
He was severely reprimanded. And he lost the job he was trying to get. Now, he won't show his face around here.
For the defense, you may cross-examine.
Sergeant, you testified that you found this gun hidden behind the baseboard in the defendant's closet.
Yes, sir.
How did you actually happen to find the gun? I mean, did you enter the suspect's home and proceed to tear apart the woodwork?
No, sir, we tore off that particular piece because the man's wife admitted to us that's where the gun was.
Admitted?
Well, we asked her, and finally she told us.
Did you ask her if it was the defendant who hid the gun behind the baseboard?
I don't recall asking her that.
Why not?
Well, we naturally assumed it was...
You assumed? I see. And how many other unfounded assumptions did you make before you charged Jesse Ahrens with nothing less than murder?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Sergeant, when you arrested Jesse Ahrens, he was just returning home, wasn't he?
Yes, sir.
Did you assume that he had been home earlier, that he had hidden the gun and then gone out again? Did you assume all that?
No, sir, that we knew.
How did you know?
His wife told us.
Told you or admitted to you? After how many hours of relentless questioning?
Objection, Your Honor. He's badgering the witness.
All right, Mr. Reed, I'll withdraw it.
May it please the court, the state calls Detective Leonard Hewitt.
Ben, go find Creighton right away.
And if he won't come, what do you want me to do, drag him?
Well, if he won't come, he won't come, but he's got to tell you what he knows about Jesse's wife.
I know. Her name is Lucille.
You must know a little more than that.
I do indeed. She was formerly Lucille Ahrens. She is presently Lucille Evans. I made a few inquiries in her old neighborhood during those brief moments when I thought that I might actually stage a comeback through my association with Clinton Judd.
Mr. Creighton, about the hearing, we felt almost as bad as you.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'd have done something else to spoil my chances.
Yeah, did you subpoena Jesse's wife at his first trial?
No, I didn't think she'd make much of a witness. I was going to put my faith in Vernon Randolph for defense. That is, if I had presented a defense.
Mr. Creighton. Mr. Creighton. Now, that is the trouble with retrials after 6 years. People die. Randolph is dead. Now, we have got to go with Jesse's wife, no matter what she's worth. Did you talk to her?
I did. Of course I did. Whatever else you may think of me, I was a competent lawyer.
And what did you get from her?
Nothing.
What do you mean? What do you call nothing?
Absolute zero.
A competent lawyer talks to the defendant's wife and gets absolutely nothing?
Here. There's her name and her address. Why don't you go and talk to her? See if you can do any better.
Mrs. Evans?
Yes, what do you want?
Well, I would like to come in and talk to you, Mrs. Evans. I'm an attorney for your former husband.
Get back in there. Willie! Willie!
Mrs. Evans, I just want to ask you a few questions. I'd like...
Willie, come here.
Mrs. Evans, I only want to...
Take your hand off the door, please.
Mr. Evans? I'm an attorney representing Jesse Ahrens.
Get off my property.
Mr. Evans, if you won't let me talk to your wife, I'm going to have
You can't. Now get off.
All right. She will be served with a subpoena this evening. She'll have to appear as a witness tomorrow morning. I'll see you in court, Mrs. Evans.
Now, hold on. Just hold on. Now, why do you have to do that? Listen, you don't have to serve that subpoena, do you?
Are you afraid of what your wife might say on that witness stand?
It's not what she's going to say. It's her being up there. And everybody knowing that she was married to a guy like Jesse.
Well, you knew that, didn't you, when you married her?
But I knew a lot else. Things you don't understand. I knew what she wanted to be. I knew what she could be, what she is now. You don't realize how tough it was, crawling up out of all that dirt. Jesse didn't even try.
Well, maybe it was piled up too high for Jesse. Or maybe it was just packed down too hard. Do you know what Jesse wants to be, what he could be? No. We'll have to serve that subpoena.
You all make life an obstacle course, don't you? Well, don't expect anything from my wife.
That woman. What good do you think she's going to do me?
Possibly very little. I don't know what she's going to say. That's why the first witness for the defense will be the defendant. Me? Not that I know what you're going to say either. But, Jesse, you have only one chance, and that's to go with the truth.
Now, Mr. Judd, now, I told you, I get up there and say the truth. A man like me, nobody's gonna believe it.
A man like you capable of telling the truth?
Mr. Ahrens, you're sworn to tell the truth. Are you going to do that?
Might as well.
Answer yes or no, please.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yes, sir. Is that what you want?
Jesse, I want you to speak up so the jury can hear you. Now, Jesse, this .38 caliber revolver, did it belong to you?
Yeah.
Why did you hide it?
I knew there'd be trouble if it was found.
If you knew there would be trouble, why did you have it?
I was gonna use it.
To protect yourself?
No.
To protect your home?
No.
What then?
I was gonna do some jobs.
By jobs, you mean...
Heists. Hold-ups.
Such as holding up a liquor store?
Could be.
Did you ever hear anyone speak of a liquor store at the corner of Berry and Crown?
Yes, sir.
When?
When I was arrested and then at my trial.
You'd never heard of it before?
Not that I know of.
You never went there?
No, sir, never.
Jesse, did anyone else know where you hid this revolver?
Only the woman I was married to.
No one else?
Not that I know of.
Just your former wife. Now, Jesse, the time George Hussman was shot by a man robbing his liquor store, where, to the best of your knowledge, was your gun?
Home in my closet.
And where was your car?
In the alley by my house.
Where were the keys to your car?
Home in a drawer.
Who was home at the time?
My wife.
Was anyone with your wife at this time?
No.
How do you know there was not someone with her if you weren't there yourself?
Well, I guess I don't know.
Now, Jesse, where were you?
I was with a friend.
Named?
Vernon Randolph.
Vernon Randolph, who told the police that you and he were at his house playing cards at the time. Is that correct?
Vernon told him that.
But is it true? Answer, yes or no. Is it true?
No.
What were you doing?
We were behind a supermarket.
Behind a supermarket?
We were checking closing time and what the manager did.
Were you thinking of applying for a job?
No. We were casing the market.
Explain that, please.
We were figuring on how to rob it the next night. But I got busted first.
Then is it your testimony that at the time the liquor store was held up and the owner shot, you were somewhere else figuring how to rob a supermarket?
Yeah. Yes, sir. That's my testimony.
Prosecution may cross-examine.
No questions at this time, Your Honor. Frankly, I'd like to wait and see what the defense proposes to do next.
Defense, Your Honor, proposes to call Mrs. Lucille Evans.
No, sir. I had no children by Jesse Aaron.
And for how long did you live together?
3 years. Not counting the year Jesse was in jail.
Will the court order that answer stricken as unresponsive?
Objection, Your Honor. It's his own witness.
A hostile witness, Your Honor, under subpoena.
The answer is responsive enough.
Stay cool, Jesse.
How cool. I'm cold. Like dead.
Were you living with Jesse at the time of his arrest?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, were you at home?
Yes.
Alone?
Yes.
No one came to visit you? Either a woman friend or a man?
No.
Mrs. Evans, will you tell the court how many children you have at present and their ages?
I have 3 children. 5 years old, 3, and 2.
All by your present husband, Wilfred Evans?
Yes.
But isn't it true that the oldest child, the 5-year-old, was born 2 months before you married Wilfred Evans?
Mr. Judd, what is the connection?
Your Honor, I will establish it.
Mrs. Evans, if I show you a photostat of your child's birth certificate, if I show you a photostat of your marriage license...
Right. You don't have to show me anything. I said, all right.
All right, then. I suggest that at the time of Jesse's arrest, you were involved with Wilfred Evans. I also suggest that you gave him the keys to Jesse's car.
No.
And that you let him take Jesse's revolver.
Listen, what are you trying to do to me? I have a good husband now. I have a good life.
What about Jesse's life? Is there one set of rules for you and another for Jesse? What gives you the right to cover up the truth and send Jesse Ahrens back to prison?
Jesse ain't nothing. Jesse never was nothing.
Jesse is a human being like you and me.
You mean like me? You don't mean like you. Let me see a white man pay what you're asking me to pay.
Is that why you let the police blame Jesse for what Wilfred had done?
I didn't even know Willie then.
Do you expect the jury to believe that?
Yes, because Willie was in the army in Germany and didn't come back here until 3 months before we were married.
May it please the court. Your Honor, I am still of counsel, I believe. I ask the court to bear with me briefly.
You may come forward, Mr. Creighton.
Judd, let me finish this. You took her a long way. I can take her the rest.
Mr. Creighton,
Well, I expected this. I even cleaned up for it. Oh, look at me. Steady as a rock.
If Your Honor, please, Mr. Creighton will continue the examination of this witness.
Okay, so you don't like it. But, Jesse, I don't know what else to do for you. Lucille?
You're doing it for me, for him.
I made the mistake. Let's say I'm doing it for all of us. Do you remember me?
No.
Didn't I come to your house way back when Jesse was arrested for this crime? Now, be careful, Lucille. There are neighbors who saw me, and you're under oath. Wasn't there a man with you at that time? Not Wilfred Evans, but another man that you called George.
I don't remember.
And didn't this man, George, look me over very carefully? Particularly when I took out my wallet to give you my card. There was a lot of money in the wallet, and when the man saw that, he snatched it out of my hand. Don't you remember that?
No.
Well, do you remember that I was very frightened and that I was very upset? And do you remember making the man give me back the money, but not before I had blurted out certain things to you?
I don't remember.
Didn't you say, just a moment ago, that you would like to see a white man pay to set things straight for Jesse Ahrens?
Yes, I did.
Well, if you want to see me pay, tell the court why I was so frightened.
Mr. Creighton, I don't want to do you any harm.
It doesn't matter about me, Lucille. But it matters a great deal about you. You have a new life now. You have to be a new person. Please, tell the court what you remember.
I remember you said that money in your wallet. It wasn't yours.
Whose did I say it was?
Some man's. You were his lawyer. And you were supposed to hold that money for him.
A client's money that I was holding in escrow. I drew it out to pay a personal debt. Didn't I say that?
Yes.
And if it was found out that you did that, you would go to jail.
So, now you do remember my visit.
Yes.
And the man who was there at the time. Tell the court what else you remember about him.
He told me that he needed a car and a gun.
And what did you do for this man?
I let him borrow Jesse's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your efforts. The jury is dismissed. Jesse Ahrens, you have been found not guilty. You are hereby released from custody. This court stands adjourned.
Jesse Ahrens, I place you under arrest. Charge is assault with intent to commit murder.
Jesse Ahrens, charge against you is assault with intent to commit murder. How do you plead, guilty or not?
Defendant pleads not guilty, Your Honor, and requests a jury trial.
Clerk will set the date. Of course, if Officer John Morley should die in the interim, charge will become murder in the first degree. Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff.
Before he leaves, Your Honor, I would like to request permission of this court.
Yes?
To withdraw from the case.
You want to withdraw?
I do. But since I am anxious that no stigma be attached to the defendant, I would like my reason to appear on the record.
All right, Mr. Judd. State your reason.
Your Honor, I feel that the blame for the injury to Officer Morley must be shared by many, many persons, including myself. Is that goes something like this, are oppressed.
They may be content to suffer in silence. They bow to their fate. As long as let that be born, let them catch freedom. These same passive people strive reach with all the strength they possess. This was the case with Jesse Ahrens. For 6 years, he endured the oppression of unjust imprisonment. Then somehow he found the hope that I could help him, and he made his way to me. And I fed that hope with careless words. Do I condone his violence? I do not. But I feel that I understand what caused it. And I believe that the jury, which will try Jesse Ahrens, must also understand him before they can deal with him rightfully. Your Honor, I don't know whether this argument will prevail. I do know that I will appear as a witness, and that I will be far too deeply involved for the objectivity required of a lawyer as officer of the court.
You have this court's permission to withdraw.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I recommend that the court appoint in my place Mr. Ira Creighton.
Will the defendant accept Mr. Creighton as counsel?
Might as well.
It's so ordered. This court is adjourned.
I'll stay with it, Jesse. I'll take it through every court in this state if I have to, up to and including the Supreme Court. I mean that, Jesse. All right?
said all right, didn't I?
Good. Well, I'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, he's going to stay with it all the way to that bar across the street.
Jesse, I happen to know he's going to a place where they don't serve liquor.
Like where?
Like the law library. Have a little faith, Jesse.
You kidding? You're the one that got the Bar Association and let him off easy. That means I should have faith in him. I'm much more ignorant than I thought I was.
Well, if you feel that way, Jesse, why'd you accept Creighton as your lawyer?
I owed it to him.
Judd for the defense has been brought to you by